better say that, nurses. Now, let me tell you something, America. When nurses are fed up, you better watch out. When the nurses start walking out, you know something is wrong. Scotty, beam us all the way to hell up because the nurses are madder than a mofo and they ain't gonna take it no more. When nurses get riled up, Houston, we do have a problem, or more pointedly, New York, we have a problem. So here's more details on that strike. More than 7,000 nurses at 2 major New York City hospitals walked off the job Monday, arguing immense staffing shortages are causing widespread burnout and hindering their ability to properly care for their patients. Now, even before COVID, this report is coming from CNN, even before COVID, there were nurse shortages. That we need to recruit more people to become nurses in the good old United States of America. That was before the pandemic hit. Now the pandemic has exacerbated just being human, because on top of the pandemic, people still got to deal with regular medical occurrences. And the nurses are saying, hello, somebody. Hello, anybody. Can you hear me? Obviously, they couldn't hear too well, so the nurses walked off the damn job. Let's see in further goes. The nurses say they are working long hours in unsafe conditions without enough pay. A reframe echoed by several other nurses' strikes across the country over the past year. The union representing the nurses said an offer of 19% pay hikes isn't enough to solve staffing shortages, and it's not. They need more money, they need hazard pay, they are essential workers. All right, let's look at what them CEOs making. And then hike up the nurses' salaries accordingly. Can we just do that? Nurses are on the front line of any medical system, and they should not have to grovel for their pay. Give the ladies and the gentlemen and the people what they asking for. They want more money. And with inflation and everything else, the cost of living, all that stuff, they need more money. Now, it is an evergreen reminder that we may be done with the pandemic, but the pandemic is not done with us. Take a look at this headline. New variant is on the rise. Yes, the XBB.1.5, they running out of letters and numbers, is most transmissible, yet could fuel a COVID wave. Yes, ladies and gentlemen and family and friends, we might be done with the pandemic. Pandemic is not done with us. It is still mutating, baby. Ray, so I'm with the nurses on this. Most of the time, like 99.9% of the time, I'm sure we would be with the nurses. It would be very rare not to be with the nurses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, in regards to COVID, I think a lot of people have started living their lives as if COVID isn't real anymore, despite the surge in the COVID numbers. But there's groups of people who don't have the luxury to do that, And I, work with disabled people. I'm disabled, so they're the first people that comes to mind. But of course, healthcare workers, nurses also don't have that luxury because they are going into work every day, understaffed, underpaid, dealing with the full force of what COVID is doing. And if you can believe it, that one time, like 3 years ago, that everyone went outside and clapped for the nurses, didn't actually improve their working conditions or their pay, and it didn't improve the staffing shortages. So they're out there fighting for that still. 3 years, almost 3 years after COVID first started in this country, and of course they were dealing with these sorts of issues long before that. But the fact that nothing has really changed fundamentally in the conditions that these nurses are facing, while people are willing to preach that we need to support these essential workers, but are not actually willing to do anything to support those essential workers, I would say it's shocking, but in this country it isn't shocking, but it is disappointing.
Very much so. The nurses always on the front line, whether we have this 100-year occurrence or not. And they definitely deserve, they are definitely, the work person is worth their hire, they're worth their money. In New York, you got to do better and all across the country.